People are leaving left, right, and centre. I hope Little Evil's 18. What's the ad? I hope I'm not waiting.
Good evening, folks. We are live for another brand new episode of System Link, our shared podcast and gameplay stream featuring our co-host, as always, Mike Hazelton from the Xbox Guide. Good evening, Mike. How are we doing?
Hi. Yeah, not bad. First week of school back for kids, so
Yeah.
enjoying the peace and quiet at home.
Yeah, for
How about
sure.
you?
Well, I'm back teaching, so enjoying the intense bombardment of noise from children, and that also explains our massively late arrival tonight. I will not be citing technical issues or anything like that. It is purely just my life as head of department at that school. I was lesson planning this evening. I had to message Mike to delay it twice, actually, and we were still late. We were still late beyond that, so thanks everyone for being so patient. James, I've just seen you in the chat on YouTube. He said he felt lost because the stream was supposed to start traditionally at 9. Obviously, now we're kicking off well past 10 o'clock. So we'll keep our podcast segment, we'll keep it nice and lean. We'll be playing some Space Marine later on today. Our review went up on the site at 5 p.m. We hit the embargo there, so we'll get to that. Obviously, we'll get to our impressions, talk about what people are thinking. But we want to kick off, I think, the kind of big ticket item from this week. The most bizarre week we've had in gaming for a while. I mean, we, as always, we talk about our plans for System Link, what we want to do. Oh, good evening, Little Evils and Plug Socket. Thank you for jumping into chat. We always talk about what we intend to cover, and then invariably by like Tuesday, something wacky happens, some weird left turn, a strange announcement, or perhaps some news we just couldn't possibly have predicted. And here we are, a couple weeks after it launched, if that. Concord will be shutting down on PS5 and PC. I mean, let's dive in. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, still totally out of the blue. I think we talked last week. We've seen the Steam numbers. I think 600 was the highest it ever got on Steam. But you said yourself it was in the PlayStation chart, so we were thinking maybe it's doing okay on console. And even if it wasn't, it's so early to be pulling it. But it's never going to go up from here unless they maybe relaunch it down the line. But it's not, it's not suddenly going to go up next week. So I think they've seen the wait times are apparently getting very high for games. It's hard for them to do anything with it while people are playing it. So easier for them to take it offline. If that is the plan, we obviously don't know. And I'm a bit skeptical about whether they will try to do that, but interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, because I feel like the fork in the road they have right now is take it offline, like you said, because any fundamental changes like changing its monetization model, very difficult to implement a battle pass and microtransactions while that game is an active live service title. So you take it offline, you turn it free to play, and launch it into PS Plus in 2025 as a free to play title, with all those various monetization things. They have to be looking at those numbers, though, that were so weak after that much investment, and thinking, is it even going to attract... Well, the beta was quite soft in terms of numbers as well, which was free, And also, originally was a pre-order beta, and at last minute it became a if you have PS Plus. They opened it right up.
Yeah, it's a bit of a catalogue of bad decisions going back to when the game was greenlit, probably, to be honest. Because it's a mechanically decent.
Sound.
It's just the concept is what's the point? And yeah, so then they did the beta, and then it wasn't popular enough. So there was a point there where they could have said, this needs more time. We've run a beta, we've taken the feedback on board. People aren't, it's not resonating with people. So we're going to take an extra 6 months, 12 months. But I guess the difficulty is with a physical release. It was probably in shops already, or like in factory, warehouses and things by that point.
And there was the limited controller as well. Like they've done there's also the secret level partnership. Like that episode, I imagine, will still happen, right? Because
that's crazy, isn't it?
It's so expensive to make those animations. And like any of that stuff, it's produced so far in advance. Anything like that with that level of fidelity, they have to have such a long lead time.
Which is what we were saying with the secret level thing. Like some of the stuff just was clearly like a marketing partnership, or like Sony have given them some help to say do one on Concord, because you wouldn't pick it out of the blue.
Yeah, but especially with the other games that are in there. It's really odd.
This is a problem with betas that aren't betas, that are like gameplay demos or server stress tests. That for me, that's not what a beta should be. A beta should be like the Black Ops one. There's enough time for Black Ops to come out where they can make realistic changes.
Yeah, for sure.
To things like balancing and server stuff. Concord, it's basically a pre-order bonus.
Yeah,
they're not doing anything about the game. If it does terribly, they're not going to delay the launch of the game, because they didn't. So what's the point? If they'd have done the beta 2 months ago, they could have actually taken some meaningful steps to sort things out. But
I have no doubt that if they'd kept it offline, if they'd done the beta, looked at those numbers, recognized the fact that they had such soft pre-orders, they had to open it up to PS Plus subscribers, realized therefore that it was going to have this kind of launch, which they must have been able to. Someone's job must have been to do some reasonable projections on this stuff, right? They delay it. 2025, it relaunches free to play. I think Concord would then still have had a very small response, but it wouldn't have been cancelled 2 weeks after it came out.
I tell you, but people are comparing it to Redfall just because Redfall tanked, and saying the Redfall numbers were way higher. The reason the Redfall numbers were way higher is because it was on Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
So if Concord had been freely available, it would have done, in my opinion, it would have done like Redfall numbers, because people would have been. Maybe it would have needed to be freely available on PC, but I don't think it was people saying, I'm not interested in Concord, so I'm not going to play it. It was the barrier of entry. The price was the barrier of entry. I don't think it would have had a long-term future, because it's just, there's issues with the game. But in terms of people saying it's like one of the worst launches ever, it's so much worse than Redfall, and Redfall was terrible, I think there's just that issue. You had to pay for it. I don't think that many people bought Redfall.
It does feel like a bit of a false equivalency too, because I remember people saying in and around the Redfall situation after that came out, trying to sort of dismiss Game Pass as saying sort of even with Game Pass it couldn't find an audience. But that's not reflective of the subscription service, that was reflective of the quality of that title. Just like I think Concord's release model and how we can kind of theorize about alternative versions of that doesn't address the core problem, which is that you're wading into an incredibly crowded market with dominant market leaders in that arena hero shooter space. That we've seen so many live service games vying for our attention, and so many over the last couple of years flounder and not be able to find or capture any meaningful market share. So at this point, they have to be looking more fundamentally at it, which for me, I don't know if turning it free to play and adding a battle pass and adding microtransactions would actually solve the problem here.
Well, I think we obviously we didn't think this was going to happen, but we talked about it literally last week. Saying, like, I think I asked, can they actually do anything to the game to make it to
Right.
change it fundamentally enough that it can actually be successful. Because like we said, it will go free to play, and then it will have a tail, but it will die off. Eventually, it will die off because it's just not different enough. And I don't think realistically there was anything we thought they could do with it. To you know, they can do some new modes and stuff, but for me, they have to make it different enough, which would be something like altering the time to kill drastically, so it feels like a different game, and then it's like a completely different thing. You're
It's
basically
a whole
rebuilding
different,
it.
a whole different proposition at that point, isn't it? You're repitching a title that was already well established, having had such a long development as well. Which is also, do we think that maybe points to the infrastructure of that studio and just not being ready to handle a live service game, that Sony hadn't built that up enough? I mean, they were a purchase that hadn't really, hadn't much experience in that area. So
It's a really horrible one for the developers. Like, whether they survive this at all.
Well, yeah, and we don't get the PSN numbers like we've said, but how bad must it have been for them to now do such an immediate turnaround on it?
Well, I guess it's losing money being online. It must be, or they would just keep it running. So they didn't sell enough to, I guess, cover the cost of operating the game very far into the future. And they've probably seen that they're not getting more sales. Even like in week 2, they're probably not getting many more sales. So
right.
what's the sense in keeping it online if they're going to be losing money very quickly?
Yeah, no, that's
But yeah,
fair
it's
point.
how I don't know how big that team is, but you've got those people sitting on their hands. Do you close the studio? Do you put them all into making a Concord better so that it will actually start to sell or do well in free to play, or do you put them on a new game? And it's a difficult
Well,
choice.
yeah, I think if any version of Concord exists, do you even want to associate that name with it?
It's a shame because I have issues with there being a physical version of it. I know we're generally in favour of physical media, but we've seen the issues. If it had been a digital only title, it could have pivoted a lot easier. They've got to refund people for physical copies,
Which
It's
apparently
a
is
pain.
down to the retailer. That's not coming direct from
Yeah.
Sony. Only the digital stuff, and on the Steam and Epic stores, they've got those processes. That's a very murky territory for a lot of those places, and a lot of them won't be asked. They'll say, "Oh, we can't issue a refund. You're out of our policy," or whatever it is. So that's gonna create some problems for Sony. This is a shit show of a situation for them.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately.
And we're off a bit of a run now. Deviation Games getting shut before they even made a title. Fair Games still exists, but we haven't seen anything beyond a CG trailer. The Last of Us Factions getting cancelled. Foam Stars, which was the Square Enix partnership, that game just evaporated on launch.
We seem to talk about Factions every week, but they worked on that for quite a while. They could have launched that half finished, and it would have done better numbers than.
I was having a great chat with my friend Johnny Wilson, who is a huge Last of Us fan. He and I were, we still play the Factions 1 mode, and we were very much looking forward to 2. We'd said that, why does everything have to be a games as a service title? Factions 1 hasn't been updated for nearly half a decade, and there is still, you can find games in that quicker than you could Concord when it was out. And there's still a community there. You make a great multiplayer game, you keep the servers on, there are no patches, there are no updates, there's no new DLC or maps. That just runs, and people just want to play in that world and play those game modes. There is such power in that, and that is a paid, well, you obviously get the campaign with it, it's not a separate release, but that is multiplayer is part of a full price release that is still a full price release. Does everything have to be a service?
Clearly a PlayStation. It was a PlayStation mandate a few years ago. Whether it still is, we don't know until we get some new game announcements. We don't really know if they're shifting gears with that or not. You'd have to think they will try to pivot back towards their core single player.
Well, yeah, especially off the back of their big success was Helldivers 2. but not a. That was more of a cooperative title than any sort of competitive multiplayer, and a very
And
different.
PC did much
Yeah,
well. I don't know if it did better, but it did
extremely well.
impressively well on
Yeah.
PC.
And they must have been looking at Concord and comparing those models. Budget price release, very, very specific. Not a huge number of game modes, a very targeted experience. They just, I think, for a multitude of reasons we've already discussed, waded into a crowded space and didn't advertise or monetize the game in the right way. I don't know if it comes back. I don't know whether there's now too much negativity and failure associated with that IP to be able to resurrect it in any meaningful way. And even if they do, I don't know if going free to play actually solves the problem. People didn't want it when it was a free beta on PlayStation Plus. I know I keep coming back to that, but that's got to be your big metric.
Yeah.
Take
It
the
is a
loss.
shame because
Yeah.
seeing people posting pictures of the box and stuff, the branding is really nice. There's something about it that is really cool. It's just obviously the gameplay itself doesn't stand out.
I was
Like
I
part of that team has done a great job. The CG trailer was great. We were
well
saying.
directed and yeah.
There's bits of it that are really really well done, and the gameplay itself is solid. It's just someone needed to step in and say you need to be a bit bolder with this.
Yeah, because it's trying to be Overwatch. It's trying to be every other Apex Valorant sort of hero-based shooter. It's interesting too because I remember in the lead up after we saw Concord and Fragpunk I was thinking is a bit closer to Valorant in its style. 5v5, very quick time to kill. They've got that card modifier system that reminds me of the Back for Blood card system as well. I think of the two games, when we spoke about it originally, I think we did cover this on System Link at some point back in the day. Like 2 months ago.
13 episodes.
Yeah, 13 episodes, yeah. I think I remember being very, very positive about Concord, and you were very positive about Fragpunk. And I definitely was on board with what Fragpunk's trying to do. I'm very much looking forward to that coming to Xbox next year. But Concord really got its hooks in me, and I really thought this is a smart bet for them, especially off the back of Helldivers 2. It felt like a really good next step for them to be going into that space, especially with their new games as a service push. And I enjoyed the beta. We've talked at length about them mechanically, that it was really good fun. It just lacked that unique selling point, that different identity, and coupled that with the way it's been released, the soft response, and the way it's been monetized, it's just a collection of bad decisions.
I think they would be much better off, especially while they're finding their feet and trying to judge what works. They'd be better off trying to emulate the Helldivers move and look for something like Fragpunk that you can invest in and get it exclusive. And do that. Look, I don't know what the push is particularly to compete with Overwatch and Fortnite and all the big free-to-play games, because you're just getting that money in as a platform holder, getting you a 30% or whatever. Like, just be happy with that. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah,
instead of spending hundreds of millions to try to compete with,
to chase something where on your own PSN charts, much like on Xbox, there aren't any exclusives in that top 10. You're trying to chase that audience at the same time as you're trying to go after, arena hero shooters. James coming back in on YouTube there saying, what did I miss? Well, we're just wrapping up our unpack of the Concord news this week, discussing how this is just a truly unprecedented sequence of events. The idea of the way this, from the beta to release to now it being shut down, the turnaround has been crazy.
You have to say both. We'll come on to Microsoft. Both Xbox and Microsoft don't talk about Nintendo much at the moment, but I'm sure we'll get to them in the next few months. Have been making mistake or bad PR move after bad PR move. I mean, if you're not an Xbox fan, probably what Xbox is doing is probably quite good from a consumer first point of view. But just if you're a PlayStation fanboy or an Xbox fanboy, it's just constantly misstep after misstep from both sides. It's not been a great year.
And we can't now just attack Microsoft for bad first-party management. There have been enough closures. Look at Bungie. What happened with Naughty Dog, and now this, and there's enough going on with their games as a service push on the Sony side to suggest that perhaps they've lost their rudder a little bit here, and
Sony have
quite
really lent on the second party or exclusive
yeah.
third party stuff this year in
Stellar
particular.
Blade, Hell Divers 2. We've seen that, multiple instances of that.
And Black Myth, which
Black
we'll
Myth,
come on to.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Not quite sure.
James on YouTube just mentioning not the first Concord to flop, so that's great. Immediately getting in the jokes there.
Lasted a bit longer.
He said he followed that up by saying surprised by PlayStation though. It's been a while since they really missed the target, and I think certainly from a release standpoint, this is an unusual one for them. But there has been now a little bit of a pattern of the way they've been operating. Projects not seeing the light of day. I mean, Deviation never made a game. They were purchased without making a game, and they were shut down before one launched. Just crazy.
The thing with, I don't want to go on about Naughty Dog, but I think they've done enough that you would say you would give them. It's up to them. If they think they can make it a success, let them. The amount of money they've brought into PlayStation, let them have a go. This is different because it's a new team that they've invested in. Not made a game before. It's taken them 8 years. Why didn't Bungie look at Concord and say this isn't going to work?
Yeah, and then at the same time we've got Bungie, then all the layoffs and mismanagement going on over there in and around the acquisition that Sony had.
Well, they're looking at third-party game, third-person shooters that they. To be honest, what do they know about third-person multiplayer shooters?
If there is to be to believe that Bungie did in fact step in and Naughty Dog and realise, that is, I am always.
Someone did. I don't feel as though Naughty Dog would have done that themselves.
No, you're right.
What I'm saying is, why didn't someone do it to Concord?
Yeah, too confident in their previous efforts, I think, too, for them to allow themselves to do that, which is, just a bizarre state of affair. Which again, speaking of bizarre, I tagged this episode with sort of mentioning it's been a particularly bizarre week for gaming news. That was kind of how I prefaced tonight's episode. Black Myth and all these rumors around the money hatting that's going on that's keeping it off of Xbox. Are we to believe these reports? Because they've said it categorically it's not a technical reason that's stopping them from doing it.
It's a weird one because we talked about it last week, like the launch, and it was going really well. And was it well done to Sony if they did basically done if they did get an exclusivity deal on it, which hasn't been confirmed. There's all these insiders that are starting to come out of the woodwork, or my sources have told me that there's some sort of deal going on. And Microsoft has said basically they can't comment on whether there's a deal, which people are taking to mean there is a deal. But I didn't read it like that. I think it's I don't think that's the case. I think the most plausible explanation is that PlayStation invested some money to make sure the version that they got, the port they got was good and was on time. And I don't think there was like a marketing deal or an exclusivity. Well, there might have been a marketing deal. I don't think there was an exclusivity deal. I think it was just, we'll give you this money, make sure it comes out at the same time as PC, make sure it runs well, which it doesn't, but
Yeah.
and Microsoft obviously didn't do that. I think that's just
it's so easy, I think, to be swept up by that sort of insider reporting when they start talking about the nature of these kind of deals, and then they try and relate it to like, is the Series S holding it back, and all that sort of those classic sort of console warrior talking points. But it's very likely there is some kind of timed exclusivity, and the nature of that deal is that they just can't talk about it publicly. That's it. There isn't an Xbox version announced, so they can't. It's not like they're saying it's coming. It doesn't exist.
Do you think Sony specifically said, "We'll give you this money. Don't bring it out on Xbox for 6 months"?
I think it was more just we'd like the exclusivity on it, and then it'll happen. And I don't think there'll be any particular fanfare to it. I think it will just be announced, much like Stray came to Xbox a year later. They partially funded that game, and that was the nature of their deal.
But isn't it a good thing if you're a PlayStation fan to see them doing? Well, like, why wouldn't they talk about it?
Yes, but maybe that's maybe that's also because there's so much of their PR right now, if you're talking about deals and management, it's been dominated by the Concord situation. If anything, they just want to maybe take the win. Sort of the great reviews and the insane player numbers, they want to just associate their version of that game, even though it clearly is doing barnstorming really well on PC. They want to associate that game with that, I think. And James just coming in here mentioning about how he's been an Xbox man for a long time, bought a PS5 and had a magical experience with it. Still felt like more of like a kind of next-gen gaming experience than Xbox, which is interesting. And then also closed that up by saying, I'll never play games any other way than at the Burly Bird arcade. That's the ultimate way to play. So snuck in a little advert there, which is great. Nintendo in the background focusing on nothing but making quality games and not having to worry about their consoles in the slightest. Yeah, because they're so IP driven. They've got their unique selling point now that their handheld and home console is one division. Every game gets made for that platform. They get to leverage 30 plus years of IP. They're in the best position they've been for a decade, no question. And
when we have 3 handhelds, it will be interesting.
Because that's cooking, right? We know that Xbox has got something cooking.
Probably. I mean, Nintendo will still have the best first party, but not the best selection of games, probably.
Right.
And certainly not the best infrastructure, operating system,
voice
pricing
chat
model.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even though they're objectively cheaper, but I feel like you get what you pay for with the Nintendo. You're getting that cheaper version.
Cheaper for now. Yeah.
So in another slightly bizarre twist, we have a Minecraft movie. That is the official title. It's not just me sort of paraphrasing that. It's literally called a Minecraft movie, starring Jason Momoa in there. Very strange, just being Aquaman in there. And Jack Black as the legendary Minecraft character Steve. We actually have the trailer locked and loaded here. I'll put it up in a moment. We thought we could show it on stream. We'll do a quick reaction to it. James coming saying, I thought Xbox was investing in Amazon Fire Stick gaming. Yeah, I actually, they've done partnerships with like Samsung to get Game Pass on their cloud streaming on their TVs. I do think that we're going to get a Chromecast style streaming stick. I think that's in the future. Maybe next gen. Ties in with their handheld and that becomes their scale. They get to have their Series S style affordable experience where you've got the streaming stick, a dedicated handheld, and then a super powerful box. I could see that being a real flagship move by them to really differentiate from what Sony might be doing. James also mentioning Minecraft is an endless amount of things to people. You're right. I mean, I have no real history with it myself, but I know it is an absolute behemoth. So we thought it'd be really interesting just to check this out on stream. I'll pull it up now. So here we go. I think visually, he's done a really nice job with this in terms of it not looking like the game. It still looks like a modern CGI, but they've retained it evokes the art style, doesn't it? Of it.
Yeah, visuals were what I was most concerned with, and I'm happy with like the block visuals. I think the concept of having humans in there is a good one.
Anything you can dream about here, you can.
The animals, I wasn't 100. It's a bit weird, kind of blocky, but then you've got like realistic CG elements. Like the animals obviously aren't realistic, but they're not blocky. But I think it probably works in their favour because you've got them being like cute looking or weird looking and stuff, and I just don't think they'd be able to do that with the block effect. Jack Black is obviously great.
Yeah, I'm not on board with Jason Momoa's bangs. I'm not on board with the fringe.
No, well, hopefully he'll have a backstory.
Yeah. I'd like a spin-off Disney Plus series on that, please, just to explain the choice of hairstyling. But it visually looks exactly like what you'd want from that film, and it's what a great thing that Microsoft's Quantum Break TV crossover push would have been now. I do think a lot of the Xbox's TV stuff will be far more accepted now, given that we've seen such a resurgence in video game adaptions being treated well and received well as well by, not only treated well by the creators but received well by audiences. So it's a good era for them to be doing this right now, I think.
I think the problem with Quantum Break was the game wasn't received well, or like critically it was received well, but it didn't land well because it was a time you had stuff like Sunset Overdrive
Well,
that they were trying to, yeah, good games, but there wasn't an audience for them on Xbox One, and I think it was the same with Quantum Break.
Yeah, and I suppose you can also, to counterpoint my own perspective there, look at the tepid response to Borderlands 4's announcement off the back of that absolutely dreadful Borderlands film, supposedly.
Yeah,
so
this is a. I'm sure this will the trailer we just watched will split opinion, but I think generally it will land well.
Yeah.
Not as well as obviously the Mario movie trailer, but just it's very, very hard. Stuff like Sonic, obviously that polarized opinion and had a rethink. The Pikachu Detective one, I think, split opinion. It's very hard to get it right. You don't want a film that just looks like Minecraft. It's got to be the right balance, and I think they've got a good balance.
And potentially that's where the Super Mario Brothers movie did a good job there as well. I think they kind of carved a version of that identity while still evoking what you'd expect from it visually. And yeah.
The benefit for Pokemon and Mario is they've had like CG bits, like videos of Mario in that kind of setting, in like trailers and things. Like even I like at the start of Super Smash Brothers, they have a Mario that looks kind of like that at the in the intro, and Pikachu has obviously been in so many different games and is in CG trailers for those. So it's less of a departure than when you have Minecraft and maybe to an extent Sonic in those settings.
Yeah. Now, it'd be interesting to see how this one shakes out, especially for those reasons. The idea of it sort of taking something that's familiar, a very sort of recognizable setting. People would know Minecraft if they saw that footage. They'd be able to point to it straight away, even if they weren't 100% sure they were watching a Minecraft trailer. That it's been done in such a way that I think people can recognize that, which is speaks volumes to the strength of that brand and how it's still enduring even now. Xbox then, on the flip side of this, a slightly sort of odd situation that they found themselves in. Not the first developer as well. It's the team behind, I don't think I'm pronouncing this right, but Enotria? It's really tough to pronounce that one. That's going to go down in the annals of my pronunciations. But we've had a few titles now skip Xbox, and this was one example of that. I just noticed James saying that, well, they used the Beatles in the trailer, so I'm in. So whatever you're feeling about the Minecraft thing, whatever, that's great. We then saw very explicitly the Enotria devs, I'm just going to roll with it, said, we would love to publish an Xbox version, but we have been, routinely ignored by Microsoft's publishing, and called them out.
Statements.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Multiple
They've been very active on Twitter.
Showing screenshots of the developer view with like a pending message and the date like months ago that it was sent without a reply. Which, look, can't defend that. That's shit for a developer that's trying to publish on your platform. But the thing that came out only a few hours ago before we started streaming tonight was that they put out another statement. Phil Spencer himself and their publishing team had reached out to them behind the scenes, and they're now working very closely together to bring a version to Xbox. Great that they have turned it around, and it's great that we know about that. That's lovely. But this exposes a systemic problem at Xbox, that it took a social media push by the developer and lots of sort of console warring to get a kind of response from Microsoft of any kind. Bizarre.
This is a weird one.
So weird.
I feel like I'm definitely taking the wrong position on this. I don't like that the developer's gone on to social media to complain. I find it, for a start, there are people at Microsoft you could talk directly to about it and say, look, we've been trying to do this for months. If you don't sort it out, I'm going to start posting on social media about it. Before you start posting on social media about it, I don't like that they've kind of forced the issue. Obviously, they felt desperate enough, but you have literally hundreds of games per month from indie developers that are launching on Xbox that aren't having these issues, that aren't waiting months for games to come out. So I don't understand exactly why they've had such a problem. I think there have been some corroborating stories from other developers, but
Yeah.
people, single man teams are releasing games without an issue.
So
And I
perhaps not as fundamentally a systemic issue as perhaps
Well-
I thought it would be. I suppose maybe I'm then wondering, and this is obviously pure speculation, but how many devs do decide to just not do anything? That they just decide without announcing anything, like they're not perhaps as open as and explicit as these guys, that they just go, well then let's not bother them. We're just going to announce our game for PC and or PS5.
I think probably the issue is if you're like an idea Xbox title, you get your handheld through the process, and they're really responsive because there's a whole idea Xbox team. I don't know if they're still called that. If you're not idea Xbox and you come into problems, there's probably not a support network there to help you out. We had the Capcom Fighting Collection, I think it was, that was also skipping Xbox.
That's right.
And then very similarly, they said Xbox have reached out and now we're going to be launching it at the same time as PlayStation. So we had like within basically a week of each other, 2 games that were skipping Xbox. On both occasions, they've been reached out to. The Capcom one, obviously Capcom didn't say, oh, Phil Spencer's not answering my phone calls. We're skipping Xbox because the platform's broken. But there was obviously an issue, or Microsoft have done similar to what I was suggesting might have happened with Black Myth. Microsoft have gone to Capcom and said, we'll fund you porting it to Xbox, so as long as it hits the release date, which I think they need to be better at to avoid having like, you can't give all your exclusives away and start letting the multi-platform stuff slip as well, because it's just not sustainable. That's not a platform anyone wants to be, have as their only console.
No, I agree.
So they need to be hotter on this stuff for sure.
Yeah, that's where I think perhaps I am kind of just speculating here, seeing the patterns of this and wondering if maybe that there is more we don't hear about, and it's just these few places, these few bigger profile either social media pushes, or in the case of Capcom, a big title that's then magnifying the issue beyond, to a greater scope than it actually is, mountain out of a molehill kind of thing. I didn't actually realize that the Capcom thing had turned around. That was you broke that nug to me. I thought it had just skipped Xbox and that was that. James mentioning actually a game that I had clocked and forgotten about. Perhaps something to look at for a future stream was Star Trucker, which is a trucks in space game just dropped into Game Pass. Yeah, I think that could be an investigation stream, possibly on a Burly Bird
Live on a Monday. I think it might be quite slow though.
Yeah, so whether that's a sleepy stream, I don't know. Whether that's going to be a tired one. He also followed up by saying, "Imagine a reality TV show like Wife Swap, with the star from Microsoft swap with Sony for a month. I mean, the anarchy, the anarchy that would cause."
They just sabotage it though, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would just be unplugging servers. Take that, Cloud Azure, and just taking out their Ethernets.
Cancelling factions.
Yeah, we'll get you back.
Concord.
We'll cancel Fable. Furious.
I just wanted to I have a bit of an issue with developers criticizing platforms openly on social media. You have basically retired developers that do it a lot. With certain influential people talk a lot about platforms when they're not really developing games anymore. We had the Larian developers in a similar situation that were basically saying we can't bring it to Xbox because they're insisting on parity with the Series S. And that was comparable because they were being very open on social media about it, rather than saying to whoever at Xbox. Maybe they did say, and maybe they were ignored, and then they went to social media. We don't know, do we? But I think from Microsoft's point of view, they need to get on top of this. They need to make sure there's someone available to talk to developers and keep this stuff off social.
Yeah, it's all to do with messaging again.
Just a communication thing.
Yeah, another PR thing, isn't it? I don't inherently have a problem with devs perhaps at their wits' end, feeling like they have no other choice, especially if they're passionate about bringing a game to a platform. I think there's a way you can do it without necessarily stoking the flames of a console war debate. But inherently, there's also nothing wrong with, I personally think, is just expressing a very real frustration with their lack of response, that tone deaf media approach that they take so often at Microsoft and Sony, to be fair. Sony aren't immune to this. Nintendo perhaps top of the pile. I think it's okay actually sometimes to sort of say there is a better way. We can do this better. And if you just get being met with the deafening sound of silence, it can rile people up. I just wish they'd maybe expressed it in a way that wasn't quite so sort of polarizing and console war baiting.
It was a bit more like a fan.
Yes,
it was a bit unprofessional in my opinion. Like you have a business. I don't think you would go to the press and release a statement like that about Laser Quest. It just, you would. If I was them, I would have had like a junior developer leak something about it, whatever. Do something that's a bit more discreet. Don't, as like the head of the company, make a like a flame baity statement like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. What a weird week we've had. Thankfully, a little bit of James just said, "I'm listening." God. First of all, don't ever call me John. How dare you? Then I will make a complaint. That's my complaint. You misnamed me. So, in slightly more consistent news, we've had two really solid, probably, vying for some top games of the year experiences over the last week or so. We're very, very fortunate to get the chance to review Space Marine 2. We had that game in middle of August. We were playing that. Focus Entertainment were really, really generous, and they gave us access to that. And we played. We got the review up today. Reviews have been glowing for it, and we'll be playing that later this evening. We're going to show you some multiplayer from that, because I've not actually played it, so I wanted to play something fresh on stream, because couldn't review the multiplayer. The servers weren't live before the early access launch, so we want to check that out live on stream, do a live review almost of that. But we were obviously played the campaign mode, the operations, and just fantastic all round. We'll be getting to that in a bit. The big one we kind of wanted to finish our discussion point on tonight was Black Ops 6, the beta that's still, I think, actually wrapping up tonight, and then the open beta starts on the 6th. We both played it off stream. Mike and I played this over the weekend, and I am happy to say that I had potentially the best time playing a Call of Duty game in the last 3 or 4 Call of Duties. For me, I think there is... Sorry?
Same here, yeah.
Oh, nice, cool. So I think there is some obvious beta wonkiness with things like spawning and
hitching,
some of the animations.
I had a lot of hitching.
Some hitching. But again, it's beta that's being used for its intended purpose early enough to get a lot of those things fixed, ready for the October launch. I think that's good. I think that's coming.
There's no way, categorically no way, the hitching will be in the final game.
No chance.
Just won't. You can guarantee it won't be there. So it's not.
James mentioning about the install size for the game just there. They'd recently done a patch, because I had to update my Call of Duty launcher before installing Black Ops. Black Ops' beta was only something like 36 gig. I know it's not the full game, but really well optimized. Given that they have a good chunk of the maps and the multiplayer gameplay in there, they, I think, have done some optimization around the other installs as well. So potentially when that comes out, we'll be looking at a slightly less resource intensive and hard drive capacity breaking install there, which would be great. I don't think it's 200 gig. No, I think you're good. I've thoroughly enjoyed what I've played so far. I think getting some fresh maps in there. We've got 16 maps launching with the game, all brand new. None of them are remakes. Gameplay felt great. The movement felt great. I was just really, 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 really satisfied with it. So
yeah, it feels a bit different. I think you mentioned time to kill maybe feels a bit shorter. The movement obviously is a completely new dimension that people are still getting to grips with. So I think you can come in early on and you won't feel like me, who hasn't played a Call of Duty consistently for a few years. You can come in and kind of hold your own, because everyone's finding their feet still, which is nice.
Yeah.
As opposed to normally you come in and everyone's just carrying on from where they left off because they've just been playing COD constantly. And it's nice for it to feel different each time. I do feel as though they should be trying to tweak things, and so each Call of Duty you can say that one was a bit slower, that one had movement, that one was short time to kill. It's it's nice.
Yeah, I think having the gaps between these Black Ops titles has given them a real chance to actually make a meaningful change. I didn't enjoy Black Ops Cold War at all. That felt like it was just Modern Warfare reskinned. And then the last 3 Modern Warfare titles have all been based on the same engine. This feels like a real genuine step in a new direction for them. And more content rich than ever. Getting back to that round-based zombies I think is going to be really cool as well. They've moved away from the open world stuff that just felt like a war zone with zombies. So that was really, really cool. Just James asking about kill streaks. So there are actually score streaks now in this. And I've finally understood how they actually work. So they obviously do still reset on death. But you earn points towards unlocking those score streaks with any actions you take in the game. Assists, kills, completing objectives, destroying equipment. And if you then survive long enough, having accrued those points, you're then unlocking those score streaks. And it's a really, really nice, balanced system. For the first time in a long time, I haven't felt that the kill streaks or score streaks are dominating the game at all. I found it so frustrating playing Modern Warfare, where you'd always be being attacked by gunships and helicopters and people like just racking up insane kills and getting this stuff that was just game breaking. I feel like they're very supplementary this time. When they turn up, they're more of an event. Doesn't happen very often in the game. And I like that, maybe partially because of the movement and the time to kill being slicker and a bit quicker. That might be playing a part in that. People are not surviving as long in it.
I think something else that's really nice that you've mentioned you mentioned it on Monday as well. The fact that you get the same as a kill if you assist. So if you're following, if you have certain teammates that steal all your kills, you're not losing out. You still get a score streak, as opposed to if it was a kill streak, even if they were giving you points for assists, you'd be you wouldn't get those. So some very sensible and well thought out changes to the dynamics.
Yeah, because it's so quick and it's so tempting to just throw your corpse on the pile that you'll often be in a firefight with your friend and one of you gets the kill, the other one might have actually actively helped but didn't really get anything other than some token assist points. They've really addressed that and making it effectively a kill for you each in terms of the points you earn. I saw some bonuses for headshots as well, like I got 125 points for a kill with a headshot. That was really nice, or killing an MVP or something like that.
Yeah,
there was a really nice sort of additional rewards built into that. Just to encourage those more skillful kills. James ready for his shotgun runs, which is great. So he's got his loadout in his mind all ready to go. He was asking sort of just your general thoughts. What is Mike's review? Just sort of your general now sort of closing thoughts on the Black Ops beta.
I think it's going to land really well. I think it will be, well, certainly we said before, it will be the most played Call of Duty ever. I think it has to be, but I think it will also. I don't know about the campaign, but the multiplayer I think will be critically pretty well received.
Yeah.
I'll be disappointed if it's not. And the best Call of Duty I've played for a long time. So hopefully, as long as they don't drop the ball with content and things down the line, it should keep us engaged.
Yeah, nice. Well, we're feeling very positive about that, and also about Space Marine 2, which we reviewed on the site recently. When the review went up today at 5:00. Just seems to be getting 8s and 9s across the board, which is really exciting. It is fantastic. We're going to play some multiplayer live on stream. We're going to take a quick intermission, and then we'll be back, and we'll be testing out the Space Marine 2 multiplayer for the first time. I'm actually tempted, just now that I've thought of it, to treat this like a live review, and then I might do a follow-up article, something on the site, just to kind of summarise our thoughts, include a clip from System Link maybe. Just pitching ideas, taking the Eurogamer approach and trying to get as many articles out of one news story as possible, which is their staple. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Obviously, the VOD for System Link goes up straight onto YouTube as soon as the episode has finished its recording, and we'll be back on Monday for another Burly Bird Live. As always, I have no idea what we're going to play, but I'll figure that out as we get there. Stick with us. We'll be back in a couple minutes' time. Say again. So what was that?
Space Truckers or whatever.
Space Truckers. We'll be back shortly after a brief intermission, and playing some Space Marine 2. See you in a moment's time. And we are back playing some Space Marine 2. Here we are. Oh, this game is glorious. So Mike just had to pop back in. He'll be back out in a moment's time, but I'm going to forge ahead. James, can't believe I didn't think of Tag and Bag as a laser tag podcast before you used that name. That's fantastic. Yep, snuck that one in there. So that one's taken, I'm afraid. Can't use that. So we're going to play some multiplayer for the first time. We're going to give this a go. It's a bit awkward, actually, the way they've designed it. You sort of load into the campaign, and then you load up multiplayer. Although, actually, just thinking about it, now I've thought about it just off the top of my head, we might not find anyone. Because I think today's the early access launch for it. I don't remember if it was today or Thursday. It might be the servers are dead. And there's no one in here. Let's have a quick look. Space Marine 2 early access. When does this start? Starting from September 4th. So no, it is from today. It's just whether there's enough people on, or maybe it isn't actually live yet, depending on its launch time. Let's have a quick look. Space Marine 2. Where's our launch times here? For this, that'd be handy. Maybe I'm jumping the gun on the multiplayer a little bit here. Because if so, I'll just sneak into a campaign mission. I've got a new save loaded on here. Early unlock. No, it's September 5th. I beg your pardon. So no, that's why the servers are dead. I won't be playing any multiplayer. So let's quickly switch back out. Also got the operations. I don't want to start them. I think that's a bit spoiler-tastic. This is on my second save, so let's. Yeah, I mean, if I show sort of a bit of the second mission, I think that would be alright. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Jack, managed to get home early enough to catch it. Oh, amazing. And I actually just saw the resub, Jack. Thank you so much for that. Really, really appreciate the support, man. And just the fact that you've been able to dive on this late. I mean, we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. The fact you've been able to jump in here is just so cool. So thank you for that.
Lieutenant, Captain Akaran has new orders for you.
Very well. Where is Ilian?
The enemy tried to smother us. We got separated. By the time we had slain the attackers, Elian was dead. Something put a hole clean through his helmet.
I should have been with you.
I only wish he had lived to see that hive ship burn.
The
I fought beside
visuals
Elian
of
for
this.
2 decades. He
So
could not
well
have been
designed.
defeated by Hormigans.
and the scale of it too. That's the thing that's so impressive about this depiction of the Warhammer universe. They've really managed to nail the feel and the enormity of it.
Forget my brothers so quickly.
Look at this. Proper next gen looking as well.
These orders reached down from the Prime.
So cool.
There can be no question as to their integrity. It is useless debating with you.
Looks like Bear Max in this armor. Yeah, he's a chunky boy, that's for sure. Jack, I was about to ask if this is an Ultramarines game. While I was in red, I'm guessing the red armor was for the multiplayer. Yes, I sort of have a thing. I tend to sort of play. I sort of use red as my kind of my color if I'm playing a multiplayer game where you can customize your look. And I thought a cool sort of red shirt Star Trek style space marine might be quite fun.
I've read through those battle reports more than 100 times. A masterful defense.
My duty kept me busy elsewhere.
You have an unusual service record.
That is my good fortune.
I want a scout recon of that position.
Captain, get over here.
Captain, I have the Mechanicus on Vox.
They can wait. This is Nozick Beta 12, a Mechanicus Archmagos. He should have been aboard this ship an hour ago, but he refuses to leave Kadaku without some data from his lab. He's currently in this Imperial Guard base. His facility is here. The enemy is closing in. That base will be overrun imminently. Nozick is a high-value asset. Get that data and get him out.
The mining facility. If we rupture the staging tanks, direct the flow into the valley, we can ignite the fields around the base.
Boil them in promethium. I'll give you command of a small team to hit the staging tanks. 3 men. That's all I can spare. Brief them immediately.
Yeah, it's really well done. Just James mentioning about the
Retrieve Mechanicus
voice
data.
acting here.
We are starting.
I'm playing in performance mode because I want that slick frame rate, but its sound and looks fantastic. You feel really sort of immersed in it. And the voice acting across the board is great.
Well, Lieutenant Titus.
We are told you have need of us, brother.
My squad must recover data from a Mechanicus research facility in Sector 41A. A large enemy swarm threatens to overrun both that facility and an Imperial Guard base to its east. You will sabotage a Promethium refinery to delay their advance.
We will not fail you, Lieutenant.
So
Let
this,
us burn the Xenos field.
these 3 soldiers and what they're doing to support Titus's mission, this actually takes place during one of the operations, which is the co-op spin-off mode, where you have these like specific side missions that you go on. You play as this secondary squad. So the campaign, which I'm in right now, Titus, the main character from Space Marine 1, this is you sort of playing your main story. But then you get to play out those sort of supplementary side quests in that dedicated co-op mode that's going to have new missions added to 3 later on. It's a very cool way of handling that.
Intriguing. Predictions would determine a 0.9 probability that you would.
I have pressing duties, Magos.
Very well. Engage the armory terminal. I will see that you are suitably equipped for your mission. Indicate your desired war gear, and the armoring station will handle the outfitting procedure, though much has changed since we last met. All this will remain familiar to you. The Omnisire blessed us with clear-sightedness from the beginning. We offer blessings to this machine, that it may serve you
We'll go for the bolt
just
rifle.
as it serves him.
Plasma pistol's fantastic, so I'm going to keep that, and I love the combat knife. So we'll stick with that there, and then we'll get to it.
This armory is comprehensive, but available options are those recommended for the
Someone coming into my YouTube chat offering a thumbnail design.
My
Nope.
thanks,
All
Magos.
good, buddy boy.
Galileo will suffice.
I'm sorted. All covered for graphic design. And that's assuming you're a real human, not a bot.
Brother Titus, you leave on a mission of vital importance. The battlefield below leaves no room for the slightest error of judgment.
I am of clear mind and purpose.
May the directives of our beloved Primarch guide your every action. I shall follow your progress closely.
I will reflect on your words, Chaplain. But for now, duty calls.
Just making sure my cats don't escape. So yeah, that's setting up the operation. So I've got the option here now to carry on with my mission on the Thunderhawk, get down to the planet, or I can switch out to the operations mode and play that as that secondary squad. Both are available in co-op as well, so it's not just co-op exclusively to operations. You can play the campaign missions as a 3-player, and also the operations side missions as a 3-player as well. Very, very cool. Very well done. This is a nice touch too. Integrating the objectives into the loading screen. Have it be sort of a mini cutscene with them traveling.
Archmagos, for the last time, we must get you off-world!
Assessment equals in order to take ignorance.
We'll be overrun in minutes!
By the Omnissiah cease interruptions.
Major.
Anchoran finally sends me what I asked.
Archmagos, it is imperative you evacuate immediately.
Decoy will not leave without the data. Relocate to my facility. I will instruct over Vox.
Make ready to leave. This will not take long. Major, I have a second unit working on a theoretical that should buy you some time.
My lord! I've lost 3 squads trying to reach that land. We think something's out there.
Noted.
The Emperor protects.
Identify. Lab location equal to far side of swarm distance. Reiterate. Time factor critical.
We will Vox when we have an update.
See that you do.
We will never get this planet to stitch out of our armor.
How satisfying is that? And your AI squad mates get stuck in as well, which I really like. That's like me.
Thalassa, the Cadians are
Got
running out
a
of
stun
time.
move there.
How close are you to the
Parry.
facility?
There's a lot going on. I love the way you interact with these as well. You beat your way through this plant. It's hilarious to look at.
What was that? We are being hunted.
Okay. I mean, I know already, but I'm trying to add to the mystery.
Cordanus. Septimus. Damn it.
This is the work of a lictor.
Sergeant Gadriel to Resilient. 2 of our brothers have fallen in battle. Send an apothecary.
Received. We shall honor them, Brother Sergeant.
Reload! Deploying frag grenade!
I want to try and show you some of the executions as well. They're so satisfying. Ooh. Oh, I didn't miss my block. Oh, mistimed it again. There we go. Bang. And now I can execute.
Another one dead.
Oh, one coming. I hope it comes across how crunchy the weapons feel. Like, the sound design of this is awesome. Always an execution opportunity there. Am I going to make it? Yes. Oh, it's so grim. So grim.
That opening offers a shortcut.
Again, the weapons and the movement just feel really heavy. There we go.
Throwing frag grenade! Stay clear of its whip.
I won't live long enough to use it.
Ah! Mashed up. There we go. Knee to the face. Running out of ammo.
Ready to deploy special tactics.
This place reeks of death.
We never saw the attack.
This frivolous inefficiency is unacceptable. Reiterate research data at risk.
How dare you tread you guys?
Point blank stun there. Oh. And again. Execution. Try the same on him. Love it. Just love it.
Resupplying.
Look, folks, I think just because of the time, I'm going to have to just wrap it there. But it's giving you a little tease, a little hint of what's going on in Space Marine 2. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in tonight. We will catch up with you on Monday. That'll be the next Burly Bird live session. We'll be streaming at 9 o'clock on Monday. Thank you again to Mike for joining me this evening for System Link. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.